All right. Few people filing in already. Oh, we have another Candace here. Welcome. Candace with an I. Anna, Kate, Danielle. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started with our webinar in just a minute or two here. As everyone's coming in, I just want to hear from you. Who are you? What organization are you with? And where are you from? So, Emily, where are you from?
So I'm with OneCause, the organization, and I'm calling in from South Florida in the West Palm Beach area today.
Nice.
Very hot.
Yeah. I was going to ask, there's this whole heat wave thing going on. Is that affecting you too?
Well, surprisingly, no, because it's just hot here all the time in the summer. So we don't really get that. I was talking to some Indianapolis colleagues this morning and they have warmer weather than we do. So yeah, it's actually, we're pretty fortunate, I think, right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know I'm in New York, so they're thinking that it's potential that like the power could go out because it's so hot.
Right.
Let's hope that doesn't happen, or at least doesn't happen now.
Right. Yes.
We should be good though. So welcome everyone. I see people coming in from all over. We have another Avon Park, Florida person. Let's see. Christine's from Jersey. We have Ontario, Canada. This is great. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. So I want to get us started with our webinar today. Just want to make a few announcements first. So first off, my name is Candace. I'm the digital events manager here at Community Boost. Welcome to our webinar today. Community Boost is hosting, and I am joined by Emily from OneCause, and I'll turn it over to Emily in just a few moments. But as you get settled, I want to let everyone know to put all of your questions for Emily in the Q&A pane. We're going to have some time for Q&A later today towards the end of our conversation. So put your questions there and we'll get them answered. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll get the recording in your inbox tomorrow. And we are also going to be sending out all of the slides. So there's going to be a lot of great learnings, data, and takeaways, and you'll be able to review all of this tomorrow as well. So thank you again for joining our webinar today. And I want to just turn it over to Emily. So Emily Newberry is the Vice President of National Accounts at OneCause. And Emily is really passionate about technology and the impact it has on people, organizations, and communities. So at OneCause, Emily works directly with national nonprofit organizations and their leaders to really engage donors and use technology to meet fundraising and stewardship goals. So Emily, thank you so much for joining us today. And I just want to turn it over to you. I'm really excited to learn all about how the pandemic changed giving and what we can all do about it.
Yeah, thanks, Candace. Folks, I'm so excited to be here today, really excited about the opportunity that we have been given to present on some of this information. I'm calling in, if you guys missed it from in the beginning, from sunny South Florida. And so halfway through our summer here and looking forward to fall already. But don't have much of an introduction beyond what Candace said. I will say that I have been with OneCause for about 11 years. And prior to that, I was in the nonprofit space. I spent some years with the Komen organization as well as the Muscular Dystrophy Association, working on community-based fundraising at both of those organizations. And then kind of found my way into the nonprofit tech space shortly after that. I was supposed to be joined by a colleague of mine. Her name is Nikki DeFalco, and unfortunately she fell ill a few days ago, so is no longer able to join us. So if you saw that you are getting two presenters today, that is not the case. My apologies, our apologies, but she is pretty under the weather, so we are giving her some time to rest. So we do have a ton of stuff to cover today, super packed agenda. We're going to go through sort of like 4 key areas or 4 key things today. We're going to talk about our new normal, like coming out of the pandemic. what types of things did we have to go through, and now what are those expectations coming out, right? Those changing expectations. We're going to talk about giving in the pandemic because it's important to understand how giving in the pandemic happened, and then how we transitioned out of that and what's here to stay, because that is what built those consumer and those donor expectations that we're all having to solve for right now. And then we're going to talk about ways that we can take some of those understandings and take some of the findings in our most recent study and turn those into frictionless philanthropy, which is what came out of the study, what people are wanting and what people are expecting from not just the other things that they consume, like shopping and things like that, but from their nonprofits as well. So we're going to talk a lot about a study. A lot of the information that I'm sharing with you came from our most recent giving experience research study. So I want to talk about that study and all the specifics around it, so you have a good understanding of how we got our research, what it was based and rooted in, and then some of the things that we extrapolated out of that to talk here about. So we actually did this in 2018, 2021, and most recently in 2022. I keep thinking it's 2023 already. And so the study is based on 1,000 social donors. And so when we think about social donors, those are folks that gave through fundraising events and peer-to-peer campaigns during and post-pandemic. And so after an extended period of social distancing, we wanted to really, re-examine giving experiences to better understand how this has evolved and what donors want to do to engage in the future. So for any of those data lovers out there, me included, and the rest of us, we wanted to understand the survey protocol. I'll kind of share some of that. So our sample size was 1,000 social donors each time we did the study. And to give a better description of social donors are defined as anyone who has donated to or attended a fundraising event, sponsored someone or participated in a fundraising run, walk, or ride, and or donated or requested donations as part of a fundraising challenge, like an occasion, like a birthday in memoriam of somebody, or like a giving day, Giving Tuesday, right? So donors who took this survey made a donation in one of those categories within the last 12 months. So very, very recent data and material. For our study, we do work and partner with Edge Research. They're a DC-based firm, a research firm that works with nonprofits like the Human Rights Campaign and Meals on Wheels. And we work with them to ensure that our survey pool meets census representation quotas. So we want to make sure that we're getting representation of all the various groups, all ages, regions, races, and income levels. And this means that we can be confident in presenting this data as an accurate representation of the larger population. So this year's survey we were in the field April 26th to May 12th. So again, it's really fresh, relevant data that you guys can start using right away. Now, so that's the research study. But in addition to that, we also talked to many nonprofit customers and organizations throughout this timing as well. And they did also help inform us with the trends and insights in the fundraising trenches during the pandemic. What were they doing? What are the things that they have to think about to meet donors in this sort of like new COVID world, right? And really, some of the big things that we found out of those conversations and those interactions, and you'll start to see it here in the next few minutes, is, well, 2020 was the year of the unknown, right? It was like everything was crazy and stopped. 2021 proved to be the year of like continued fundraising versatility, improved efficiency, because we've now seen the return to in-person events. The first half of 2022 was largely in person among our customer base. And then they overall enhanced virtual giving experience for those that were not able to come in person to sort of supplement that. So let's dive into like how we're defining the new normal and what everyone had to adapt to, because that does inform how we had to kind of come out of it and what our customer expectations are today. So I don't have to tell this audience, I bet everybody knows that in March 2020, the whole world fundraising as we know it completely changed. Because when we think about virtual fundraising strategies, they were there, and I think they were starting to grow in popularity, but COVID accelerated virtual fundraising. It was coming, but there wasn't a time where everybody was like, well, we have to do this. The line has been drawn now. This is the way, right? And COVID and the pandemic did that. And so we had to think about ways that fundraisers, organizations could connect their fundraising to their donors, and that was via technology. And so they had to diversify to reach new donors. And so when the pandemic hit, it was like a dinosaur extinction kind of a movement, right? Because the environment radically changed. Stay-at-home orders forced nonprofits to either stop social events or find new ways, new formats through virtual, through technology. And some people just had no choice. I mean, people were days and weeks away from their fundraisers, February and March. That was the height of the spring fundraising season. And so they were forced out of sheer survival to accelerate to virtual and online giving channels to power all of their missions. And so during these early months, we tried daily and weekly to talk live with nonprofits to understand what they were doing. I'm not going to read all of the quotes there. I'll kind of pause the slide because there's a lot of text here. But you can see, if you go to our website, actually, you can see we did close to 100 success stories from organizations and our customers who got through their fundraising strategies through the pandemic. But there was a lot of key themes coming through. The necessity of going virtual, first and foremost. Donors helped organizations carry out their missions in the toughest times. They showed up. They showed up, even though they couldn't come to the event. They couldn't do those things in person, right? They were asked to participate and experience things in a new way. They showed up. Another key thing that organizations told us is don't be afraid of the what ifs. You just got to do it. It's like ripping it off like a Band-Aid. Don't be afraid of what if. You just got to do it. And to focus on making it really easy and keeping the mission clear. Keeping the mission clear, right? Because that's why people are giving to your organization, because they care about the mission. They have a connection to the mission. So I know no one likes to talk about like the pivot word, but we are going to talk about it for a little bit because that's exactly what it was early on, right? It became like a pandemic fundraising motto. We've got to meet and reach the donors where they are. And that means like a full fundraising pivot. And that meant on home, on their computers, laptops, phones. We had to figure out ways to engage them in the causes, campaigns, and events of our customers, our nonprofit customers, and all the nonprofits out there. And so we had to think through how best to optimize a virtual experience for those donors. So let's talk about like what that new normal is and the things that are carrying over even into this almost, post-pandemic space, right? And so as the months were on, we really saw like traditional activities and experience in person stopped. We had to make connections in new ways, right? And that goes outside of the nonprofit space. We saw shopping for groceries became an online digital experience. Certainly those of us at work were connecting via Zoom calls, but we saw families starting to connect via Zoom calls. We saw new technologies emerge in that space to make sure that people were connecting. And so like we had created this new normal out of this, right? And so this foundation is now fundamental to so many of our interactions. It's sort of what we expect and care about moving forward. I want to give a few examples of companies who did this really well. Some of these companies did this really well before 2020, but certainly are leaders in their space coming out of, coming into 2022 and going into 2023. Let's take Whole Foods and Amazon as two examples. So during the pandemic, the grocery store experience changed, right? I mean, I was an Instacart user but I didn't go into the grocery store for nearly a year, in 2020, essentially. I know friends who have not gone back to grocery shopping just because now it's so widely available that they can do everything from their phone. They're like, why do I need to? I'm going to have everything delivered to my doorstep. And so Whole Foods made it really easy. They were one of the first that really digitized this complete experience. You open up the app, you can buy again. They know what I bought. They know my patterns. They know my preferences. I can pick up where I left off on my last order if I didn't get to finish it because the kids came in and interrupted me. Maybe I forgot to add items. It knows some of my preferences. So it's adding things or suggesting things to my cart, right? It is a very personalized, customized experience. I don't have to do a lot of the thinking. It is guiding me in the experience and in the transaction that they want me to take. Then I choose my delivery time, right? I've got no shopping lines, no hassle, no driving to and from. It's done all of that for me, right? Same thing with Amazon. And same thing, it's you build your Amazon cart. They know what your previous preferences are. They know what you might like and what you might be apt to buy again. And so they are curating that experience for you. I pick delivery, I pick pickup, right? And I am on my way. I don't have to worry about anything else. Shake Shack has I wouldn't say relatively new. She was relatively new about a year ago. Steph So, who became the VP of Digital Experience. And her goal was to make all of their digital interactions have a voice and fun to use, from ordering online, curbside pickup and delivery, walk-up windows at some of the more urban locations, right? They really are thinking about that entire experience and making sure that it is really easy to use. Think as few clicks, as few steps as possible. They're making it easy and they're making it convenient. Lots of articles written about Shake Shack's new digital experience in recent months. Okay, Disney. I don't know if anybody, I live in Florida, so I, and have 3 young kids. I go to Disney. And if any of you have been to Disney in recent years, you know that they have really created this amazing experience via their mobile app, right? Everything can be done. Your hotel reservations, your shuttles, your restaurants, they don't have Fast Pass anymore, but their new Fast Pass, right? All of that is done right in the app, and you can change, and you can see your agenda times, you can see your ride times, you can see your dinner reservations. I don't have to go to multiple places to do anything. They really have centralized everything for me right in that one app. To create what they call their magical experience, right? And so these are the things that people are used to. And we're all consumers. Everybody is a consumer. And many people also give to nonprofit organizations. And so we have to think about, if that is what a person, an individual, is used to in their consumer activities, how do we mirror, how do we mimic what their experiences are in their everyday consumer engagements into their giving experience, their donor giving experience, because everybody's got choices, right? And so we need to make sure that as organizations, we are making it really easy and convenient for them, because that is what they have come to expect. Let's talk about QR codes. I don't know about you, QR codes to me were like the comeback kid of the pandemic. It's like they made a big entry, a decade ago. I kind of saw them like fade off. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, QR codes were everywhere. That is how you ordered from a restaurant menu. It's still actually how you order from a lot of restaurant menus, because why print a restaurant menu anymore? Did you know, though, that it was forecast 1 billion smartphones, will access a QR code by the end of this year? 83% use a QR code to make a payment for the first time ever due to COVID. Okay, so that's like new. And 59% believe QR codes are here to stay on your mobile phone interactions. And that's huge, right? Because this was for a lot of people, a new skill, a new tech tool that they had to get used to using. But now, because they're almost forced into it, because that was the way we had to do it, they have come to expect now QR codes or QR code-like activities and experiences. Okay. So let's talk about how all of those things, right? How the pandemic and how these other large companies, these things that people engage with every single day as part of their everyday living, have come to like change expectations, not just in the regular consumer world, but in the giving world, in the nonprofit space. Okay, 72% expect. Well, so let me talk to you about this study. So this is the Accenture study. So Accenture, if anybody's familiar with Accenture consulting and research firm, they did a recent survey of more than 25,000 consumers across 22 countries with follow-up focus groups in 5 countries. Okay, so that was like the baseline of their study. Some big things that came out of that study are 72% expect companies to adapt their experiences based on changed consumer needs. And they're calling these consumers the reimagined. So the reimagined consumers, they expect them to change their buying habits based on their expectations. And so in doing so, they're creating enormous opportunities for companies that respond by resetting strategies and setting new standards for meeting and exceeding their expectations. And the reimagined, they represent significant buying power. And like I said prior, a few minutes ago, these consumers are also your donors. They are also your supporters. So if they represent significant buying power, they also represent significant donation power. They're looking for brands to adapt their experiences, and they're looking for nonprofits to change along with them too. Now, the study found, though, that everyone had like their own, deeply personal experience with and the reaction to the pandemic. Consumers did mainstream purchasing conditions that were kind of once peripheral, but now moved into sort of core focus or core preference. So like some big platforms like Amazon and Google have built this process into the fabric of the consumers' lives, right? When the pandemic elevated digital shopping to enable like touchless shipping for, daily necessities, the ability to cross-reference price and quality touched many more people and with higher frequency than it did prior to them shopping online for those types of items. So price and quality have now become easy to check table stakes. But according to the study, these are not necessarily differentiators, which is different. Rising motivators like ease and convenience are stacking more prominently as shifting consumer expectations. So that's what the Accenture study is showing. And then our study, which I'm going to tell you about, continue with the findings here in just a moment, mirrored those motivators. So again, it's all about ease and convenience. That's here to stay. Okay, so so we've kind of talked about changing expectations in life and in general consumer expectations. Let's direct our attention to giving. So how did the pandemic change or impact giving, and how are those impacts continuing to affect donor expectations? So it kind of starts with like pain and need. The pandemic, so this is this graph represents total annual donations across 4 age groups, social giving donations across 4 age groups. Remember, social giving is those online giving, participating in a virtual challenge, giving to somebody who's participating in a run, walk, ride, those types of things, right? And then of course the nonprofit types, these are the 5 main types that came out of the study too. But what I want to call out here, and I'll let this sit with you for a moment because it is a little bit, a lot to digest, is that we in the nonprofit space have been talking for years about the largest wealth transfer in history about to happen as the boomers age out. And the younger generation of donors assume like that mantle of philanthropy, right? And so organizations for a decade now, over a decade, 15, 20 years now, have been thinking, when the boomers age out, do we have enough? How are we messaging to? Do we have enough in the pipeline in the, the Gen X, the millennial age groups? And what are we doing about that? How as organizations can we get more into our funnel, right? Because those are who are going to carry us through once the boomers age out. And what we're starting to see that happen right now, because during the pandemic, as giving went virtual and online, the younger generations followed. They brought with them the new expectations from digital experience that carried over from their everyday life into philanthropy. So when things went online, when things went digital, they were right there with them. And so you're starting to see that even though boomers and matures still donated the most overall, if you look at the social giving, like those online giving opportunities, millennials far exceeded any other age group or category there. Okay, they're used to it. They're thinking about, this is how I do everything else. Of course, I'm going to give and participate and engage in the nonprofits and the missions that I support in this way too. Of course, right? Okay. With all of that though, the top donor motivators were also pretty simple and clear. And so if you recall, I said we did the study in 2018, 2021, and then most recently in 2022. Ease, mission, and impact have been the 3 top motivators since 2018. They've been there, they've been very consistent, very constant at the top, right? In 2022, though, we have an emerging motivator, and that's trust. Trust became the top motivator. Ease, connection to the mission, impact gifts were all still important, still, in the top 4, top 5, but not as significant as trust. People want to know what is happening with their money. They want to know that it's making an impact. They want to trust and be able to rely on the organizations that they're supporting. So when we think about that and putting that into practice, what are we doing? What are we doing in our messaging? What are we doing in our follow through to ensure that those who are giving to us trust us as an organization and will continue to come back and continue to give again? Okay. This is the same motivator. This is the ease and trust motivators across different groups. So really high in boomers, matures, but even every single one of these, event donors, first-time donors, Black donors, all over 50%. So you can see how significant those motivators and those buying patterns are. Okay. We took it even a step further though, and we looked at the ways in which donors rated their experience when they said it was very easy. So the good news is 8 in 10 found it easy to make a donation. You can see that right at the top of that list. Very easy to make my donation. So on average, organizations, nonprofits, and technology are doing a good job when it comes to the clicks of giving. They're getting people in and they're getting those like conversions, those givings. But when we look deeper at this, and you can kind of go down the list here, you see there's a lot of room for improvement, because giving isn't just about getting that one-time donor. It's about the engagement and cultivating that donor and getting them to do more with your organization, to have that trust in your organization, to continue to want to do more. But as we look down this list, we start to see, wow, these engagements that the ratings start to fall off, start to decrease, and how easy it was to do. So while it's really easy for me to go to the organization's website and make my donation, easy enough, right? What if I want to register for an event? So I want to take that next step and do something bigger, more substantial, and I want to register for an event. It's not as easy. It's almost 20% less easy, right? If I want to interact with other donors or participants that also see a lot of value in this organization and might have the same values that I have, and reasons why we care and support this organization, kind of low. And then I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but access content. So accessing online or virtual content, live stream content, pretty difficult to do. And so when we think about reaching these donors in the space they want to be reached in, especially when we think about the younger generations, those millennials and those younger, that's how they want to consume content. And we're not really making it easy for them to do it. So, I mean, it's good news in terms of making a donation and like that simple transaction, but we still have quite a bit of work to do. So let's talk about ease and convenience and how we can kind of put that into practice, right? So it's like, here's some great information, Emily, but what do I do about that? So we're thinking about the entire experience overall, right? It centers on choice, convenience, mission, and giving. So let's talk about how we put all of this into action. We're going to talk about frictionless philanthropy. So we want to provide you with a roadmap, or at least some areas to simplify and improve. So no matter if your fundraiser is in person, it's virtual, a combination of the two, like hybrid, the key is to prioritize ease throughout the giving experience. And then also providing donors the opportunity to connect with the mission and make choices in how and where they give. So we're going to talk through creating frictionless philanthropy. So what is that first? So again, it's really thinking through the overall experience. So let's look at our donors and events through the lens of their experience. Let's shift our mindset at fundraisers towards seamless and easy, and try to pinpoint and eliminate any friction from our events, campaigns, and process. And to do that, we need to look at how technology can streamline giving. We also need to look to see where we can centralize technology, so donors don't have 5 more different giving experience with us, so it feels and looks the same, their experience of the whole process is the same. And we need to talk to our donors in different ways, and we need to introduce and leverage personalization, because not every donor is the same, right? So what are we doing to kind of personalize and customize that experience? So let's focus on events. Now we're using like an event example, but think about any online campaigns or challenges you can do the same sort of exercise for. So this slide has a ton of information on it. I'm going to try to break it down for you. If you think about the white part on the top, that are all the different engagement points of an event, right? It's an in-person event, right? So you're going to have like, I've got to get my in-person supporters a ticket. Then they need to register, like kind of need to come in and check into the event, right? Then there's all the programming, the content that you're going to share at the event. Are we doing mobile bidding? Are we doing paddle races? Are we doing live auctions and silent auctions? All of those things, and then checkout, right? There's a lot of other things. Those are like the big core things. When you look at the bottom part of that slide, the teal slide, that's all of the things for a virtual participant of the same event or a similar event. So you've got your virtual supporter now, and it's like, okay, we've got registration still, right? We've got registration for in-person and registration for virtual supporters. How do we make that near similar, or at least not prioritize one so it's so much better, right? We have to think about meeting donors where they are, logging in, not checking in, making online donations, digital announcements, digital communication, right? Text messages, emails, things like that, because it's different. They're not on site with you. And then what does that checkout experience look for, like a virtual thing? So there's all the different ways, or like main engagement connect points for an event, for in-person and virtual, and there's a lot. And so what we want to look at is like, well, right now in our current environment, where is it easy for both types of viewers, right? Where is it hard, or where is it cumbersome? And like, let's mark that down as a point of friction. And like, we might need to say that could be a point of abandonment. They could say, yeah, this is too hard, and that's where we might be losing people, and what do we do about it? And so really looking to get into the mindset of your donors and think through what that experience is like for them. Now, when we think about like the must-dos in this giving experience, we're going to break it down into 4 key areas. So we've got personas or personalization, events as experience, fostering ease, and then creating donor options. People like flexibility and optionality, right? So I am not joined by one of my marketing colleagues here, but I'm going to taking a page from the marketing handbook here, and that's that you have to personalize, understand, and talk to your donors as people, right? Map out your personas. Who are they? And people are different. And so let's create sort of like groupings or personas for these groups of people. Who are they? What are their motivations? What are their goals? Where are they reading and consuming information? What's their history? What's their interest? What challenges them? What frustrates them, right? Because you're going to create different groups, and then you want to make sure that you message to them differently. Their experience should not be somebody else's who is complete opposite of them, right? You really want to curate something that is specifically and lends itself to the things that they're used to experiencing, used to consuming, and gain as much information about them so that you know how they like to be talked to, messaged to, interacted with, right? So this is an example of a persona that we have created. This is Carla, our gala supporter. And so you can see her motivations, you can see her goals, right? And all of those things, all those different categories are going to drive and impact how you communicate, you message to, you engage with, you cultivate and steward Carla versus Philip, who is an avid auction junkie. So his motivators are different. His goals are different from Carla's, right? And so these are just examples of ways that you can kind of create these personas based on your supporter database, and then carve out different engagement and messaging tracks for them so that you are curating an experience that is to their liking, and you are kind of entering their space, not the other way around, and expecting them to meet you in the way that you message and talk to them. Okay. We're going to talk about the pre-event experience. So kind of like breaking down all of those phases in an event, right? Now you've got your supporters, you've messaged to them, you've created those messaging based on what they like and what they're currently doing and how they like to absorb information, and they've got their ticket. And so now what do we do, right? So we need to make sure that you give them the right ticket options and the right packages and create options for them there. We need to think about pre-event messaging. How do we message to them? And then what do we message to them, right? So think about like those generals, like, thank you for your ticket. Now register your credit card. Bidding and auction are now open. Philip, the auction junkie, is going to love that message. You know that from their persona, right? And so make sure that he and others like him are getting those auction messages maybe more frequently than somebody who is coming into your organization for for Philip, maybe not so much for Carla, but event information, special announcements, matching gifts, things like that, better.
Hey, sorry guys. I think Emily had a problem with her Zoom, as it happens to the best of us, right? Sorry for that. Can you all hear me at least? Let me know. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks for being patient. I'm sure she's gonna be joining us back in a second. I think this is like the perfect time though, too, because we do want to move into Q&A in the next like 10 minutes or so, I would think. So do you want to take a moment here and submit any questions that you have for Emily in the Q&A pane? That way we're all queued up and ready to go right away. And then, oh, Emily's back. Great. I want to let everyone know as well, because I saw this question come up in the Q&A, that we are going to be sharing the slides after the webinar as well. So awesome. Glad you're able to rejoin. And yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. It actually was like your Zoom meeting has ended. So
Oh.
I know. I was like, I don't think it has.
No, not yet.
Okay, so let me, sorry about this, guys. I think we're okay on time though.
Yeah.
And I actually meant to say that at the beginning of this presentation, I tend to talk fast. So if anybody, Candace, in the chat is like, can you tell her to slow down? Definitely tell me to slow down. But let me go ahead and share again.
You're doing
So
great. I think everyone's keeping up. But Megan asked if the Q&A is recorded as well.
oh,
Yeah, so all of this is going to be recorded and sent out to you tomorrow. So awesome. I'll let you take it away.
Are you seeing my screen? Are we good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So where we left off is we kind of talked through like those really, thinking about like the friction points of an event starting at the event, but it carries throughout the life cycle event. So now we're talking contactless check-in. And I think where I got the notice that I got kicked out was when I was talking about QR codes. So we talked about QR codes a few minutes ago, and I'm calling them the comeback kid. And so consumer, like companies are using that or using QR code like things to get information to their guests or their buyers. And so they're used to this. They want to use their phone for everything. I don't want to have to go somewhere. I definitely don't want to carry a paper ticket with me, right? My phone can house all of this information. So I'm buying everything online. I'm ordering my Uber, my Lyft online. I'm buying groceries online. I tried to go to a concert a few weeks ago and could not get a paper printed ticket. It had to be on my phone. They wouldn't even take one. So think of things like that you can bring into your event. So it's all done mobile. It's a mobile one-stop shop. It's where I can update my profile, look at my purchases, update my contact information, all of those things, like just like in real life. The on-site flow, same thing, right? Thinking about the auction and how do we digitize the auction or make it really easy for people to engage with the auction. And then any other, we're talking about auction here, but it really could be any other, what I call like a revenue stream or a revenue funnel at your event. And then the storytelling appeal. How are we communicating to, and how are we creating the importance and then urgency of the mission through storytelling at the event, and doing it in such a way that does cover all of those different donor or buying motivators for all of your personas, those like mission appeal moments, things like that. Okay. And then easy checkout and pickup. I mean, I think we covered a lot of this in the slides that I was showing you about, the way that Whole Foods has done this and Amazon has done this and Shake Shack has done this. And I mean, you guys are used to this. I think everybody's, has got to be shopping online or via apps on your mobile phone these days, right? And so you know how easy it is. I can go to Target and park in a parking spot and someone brings me my things. I can go to Walmart and do the exact same thing. And so they expect that experience. I don't want to have to go to checkout. I want to check out right on my phone. I want to choose whether or not I want to pick it up or not, or if I want to have someone ship it to my house, or if I want to go pick it up in another location because the item is so big, I can't possibly fit this in my car, but I want to do that from my phone. I don't want to go to a place at the event or call someone to have to give somebody my preferences and my choices, right? So just think about all of those different things that are happening at events that we need to think about or reimagine based on the everyday consumer expectations and experiences that they're having. Okay. So that is, oops, wanted to go here. That is the end of our findings, right? And really what I wanted to see here is if everybody wanted to, like, I always like to end things with, well, what can I do right now, Emily? Like, that's a lot of great information, but practically and tactically, what can I do with this information? And really I get this question all the time is like, what do I do? What do I do? I would always recommend that the first place you start is if you are running any events, or campaigns or online challenges, is really think about all the places of engagement, right? All the different ways that you might touch or talk to or engage with somebody that you hope is going to come into this experience or is already part of this experience, and really look at it from their point of view. Is this easy? Is this frictionless? And if it's not, if you can't answer yes to every single one of those throughout those sort of phases, mark those. You're not gonna be able to cover, you're not gonna be able to tackle one or every single one of them all at the same time, but start to note those, right? And then one by one, change those or redesign those experiences based on some of these findings here and based on probably some of the feedback that you're getting from your guests. If anybody is interested in seeing the total findings, and we do encourage you to check it out. It is available for download on our website. You can download it, and you can, I think Candace said at the beginning of this, these slides will also go out. This presentation will also go out to all of you that are here. And so you can access it from here as well. But if you just went to onecause.com, you can access it there and you can download the full findings and go through all of the pages of the report. Really do recommend it. Bookmark or earmark some time to do that in the coming weeks or days, because it really could even still, there's some things that you can implement right away, even for fall fundraising. So with that, I'm done, but I wanted to open it up for questions. What time do we have? Yeah, we've still got plenty of time for questions.
Yeah, great. And we have a lot of questions that have come in. This is fantastic. Anyone, I saw a couple questions in the chat. If you can just put those questions in the Q&A pane, that will help us get to as many questions as possible. So thank you, number one, for going through all of that. Super fantastic information. And it just really helps put, I don't know, everything in context, right? Like, for us to succeed in our fundraising, we have to look at the broader scope of all of these trends and how it plays into giving. So I think this is like really practical, especially as we kind of shape our plans heading into year end. Julie asked if, since we talked about QR codes a bit, and also just saw one on the screen, what free QR code creators do you recommend?
Oh man, there are lots. I don't know if I have a specific one to recommend or if OneCause kind of recommends one. I don't know that we have any specific, but we work with customers who just Google free QR code and use any number of them. So if you want to turn your main website into a QR code, if you want to turn your giving page into a QR code, there are QR code creators free online, or our customer organizations do it all the time.
Yeah, if anyone has suggestions, you can put that right and just make sure to chat everyone. If you recommend anything, let us know. I use Canva a lot, actually. Canva has a QR code generator, so cool. Well, Amber asked, how do I cater to a younger crowd while recognizing that my average donor age is 55 plus? Still, some of them still donate by paper checks, via mail, and find online fundraising overwhelming. Yeah, I guess kind of how would you suggest Amber navigates these audiences?
Yeah. So this is one of our probably most common questions to our entire group at OneCause, because we're a technology provider and they're like, well, what do I do about the ones that are maybe not going to adapt or adopt technology right away? And that is the case, Amber. Like we're never going to come and tell you that everybody, once you move to like a more digital experience for maybe a younger generation, that the older is just going to follow without any maybe hesitation. That is not the case. There is going to be some hesitation. And I think the best way to think of it is you've got to think about they're two different groups. And so you need to curate two different experiences for them. It doesn't mean that you, just because you you do create this online fundraising opportunity for a younger generation to get some of those millennials and some of those Gen X like into your funnel. You can still continue to message to and to take, do mailers and things like that for your older crowd. It's not like a one-stop shop or a one size fits all. And I think that's what we're trying to say when we think about those donor personas. How are they different? What makes them different? What do I need to do to ensure that they feel like it is still easy and convenient to give? Because easy and convenient isn't the same things to everybody. Easy for somebody who's in their 70s and doesn't use technology could be writing a check, but somebody in their 20s don't have checks. So it is very different. So it does mean that an organization or fundraisers, right, need to create more opportunities and experiences based on their donor profiles and supporters.
And Kathy had, I think, a really good related question. Kathy was saying that she's trying to move to some of the more mature adults and donors to use more of the electronic methods of payment. How would you suggest one goes about like easing that transition?
So I think a lot can be done in the messaging of that. And so to give them a lot of opportunity to kind of get used to it. And that kind of depends on what we're talking about, like which experience you might be switching over from pen and paper. So if we're talking about like mailing, like your annual mailers, and I'm used to, sending out or receiving something in mail and giving, it's starting to encourage people to donate online because of the lesser cost for the organization. They incur less cost, right? So start to kind of put that, like your donation will make a greater impact to the organization because we're not creating this mailer, because we're not eating up postage, because we're not buying envelopes, because we're not expending resources putting together this mailer. So talk about the impact of the donation. So if you give $50 by mail, this is what we are able to do. If you give $50 online, this is what we're able to do. So start to condition them. It's about people are giving to you because they care about the organization. So start to kind of put that and take that into consideration and share the impact that each one of those donations and donation types has to your organization. If we're talking about, okay, we have an event and if you think about like the typical like event things like, like a silent auction, a live auction, like a donation moment with like a hand or a paddle raise. Really there, we work with a lot of organizations who are in the same boat and are making that switch for the first time. And it's about communication and giving them early access to information about what about their experience is going to change so that they can start to understand and expect the change, right? It's all about expectations and the delivery of such. And so the more information you give and the earlier you give, like, hey, we're excited to have you at the event tonight, in 6 months, just so you know, everything's gonna be on your mobile phone. So make sure you bring it charged, right? Make sure you bring your phone, right? And this is what you can expect. Instead of like messaging maybe that like 3 or 4 weeks before the event, let them have some time to kind of get used to that idea. We generally find that organizations that do move to that technology experience, they don't go back. So overall, it is a very positive experience. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Seeing a lot of people excited about just hearing your perspective on all of this. So there's a few questions about events in particular. So this one's kind of more of like a two-parter. So right now, how do you feel about in-person events happening and into the fall? We know like there has been a resurgence. We were just talking about this even before we went live of COVID. Like, is virtual safer? How do you feel about in-person events? Oh no. We can only assume Emily will be back in a moment. I can also help with this. I think right now, what I would do if I were you is go for a hybrid type of feel. So that way, those who like still have an in-person option, so that those that feel comfortable can come and join and engage, but also having a virtual option. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be simultaneously. I think they could take place at different dates and times. So especially if you're like a small team with limited bandwidth, you can navigate that. But yeah, would love your thoughts. Did you hear the question, Emily?
I didn't know.
It was, how do you feel about in-person events right now and leading into the
Just in
fall?
general, because of like COVID surges, and are people doing
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends. We work with over 6,000 organizations. Fall is a really big fundraising season. So if we're talking about like the fall fundraising season, summer tends to slow down, I think, for most. But most organizations are moving forward with in-person, and they're just putting they're thinking about additional precautions, things like, hey, if there is an outdoor space, let's have an outdoor space available for people who may not want to be inside, right? Or getting maybe a bigger space, let's say it's like a 300 person event and you're in your typical ballroom that seats 350, expanding the room so that it's a 600 person room space, but for 300, so that there is some space.
I'm not sure if everyone else is having some issues too, but I really appreciate all the suggestions in the chat about like, just how everyone has handled events at the moment. So I mean, it's great to hear that, a lot of the in-person events are back and going well. But I think that's great just to think about how we can be safer. Maybe you do want to check vaccine status. Maybe you do want to have people get tested before the event. And I still think like at least having a virtual engagement option is a really great way to navigate at this time, even if, like I said earlier, is not taking place at the exact same moments. At least having people, giving people a way to engage and participate is still valuable. And then for those who are really moving full steam ahead with all in person, something that I would also recommend is kind of like leaning into those additional testing requirements, making sure people know ahead of time that there are precautions being taken, and that you're also aware and taking into account their comfort. So I think even what Emily was saying about having maybe an outdoor option is really wise. So I love those suggestions. So I want to keep the questions coming, but obviously we're having some technical issues and I want Emily to be able to rejoin and finish. So I guess I would love to maybe take a couple of questions if I can, and then pitch those back to Emily when she rejoins. So let me see, which ones do I think I can add value to? Oh, Emily's back. Yeah,
Ended again.
that's so weird. I'm so sorry that you're having this issue.
No, it's okay. I'm here.
I mean,
what did I miss?
Hey, if there's nothing else, I think over the last 2 years, all of us have had some issues with Zoom at some point. So we all can can relate.
Can relate, right?
Brings us together. So there's a lot of really good questions here. I don't know if we want to we'll get through as many of them as possible. And then maybe if you are comfortable, you can share an email for people to follow up with just in the chat, so that for anyone's questions that we don't get the chance to get to today, we can still follow up. And so there was a good question around ticketing. So how do you think what's the best way for nonprofits to do ticketed events?
Ticketed events or tickets within an event? Two different things. Do you mean I don't see the question. is there a best way to do ticketed? Oh, like, okay, Eventbrite. So Eventbrite is a digital ticket experience. So you kind of looking, Peggy, are you looking for technologies that do things similar, but maybe like with some flexibility, with additional flexibility other than Eventbrite? If there is, if the question is really about, I mean, let me just reframe this. What I would recommend is that Eventbrite is a great ticketing solution, right? But it stops there. It's just ticketing. So again, when you're thinking about that experience and a supporter having to engage with technology for an event, right? You want to make sure that they're engaging with the least amount of technology possible, meaning like you don't want them to do, a ticketing on Eventbrite and then go to your main website to learn information about the event or the campaign, and then do OneCause or a similar technology to participate in,
Yeah, so if you guys can hear me, so what I think what Emily's saying is to try to keep it all in one place as much as possible. Just because, if you're pushing your donors every which way in all of these different platforms, it can get like really confusing, I would think, and sort of like really make it harder for you to do reporting as well. So there's a lot of tools. OneCause is one of them where you can do ticketing and bring all of the event side of things and the fundraising side of things into one place. Megan was also suggesting GiveSmart or GiveGab is good. They also use Donor Perfect, which has some great event stuff with ticketing and event pages. I know CauseBox is another option. But yeah, OneCause, if you're interested, is one of those solutions that can really streamline the events for your next fundraiser. So, all right. I want to go ahead and maybe see if we can use OneCause for auctions, online and in-person, live and in-person silent. To my knowledge, and I am unfortunately not a OneCause expert, but everything that I have looked at on their website and in my conversations says yes. So if that is something you're doing, auctions, in person, online and in person, I would definitely check out OneCause. I'm sure you can set up a free demo just to really see if this matches what you're thinking on your side of things for your particular event. But I would really encourage you to check out OneCause. So I know that we're having some difficulties today. I think what would just be best for everyone is if Emily does pop on, I'll ask one or two more questions. But I do want to point everyone to just onecause.com. You can explore their services and offerings and book a free demo. I also want to, for any questions that we don't get to, Emily did share her email in the chat here. So please feel free to go ahead, follow up with Emily, get all of your questions answered. And for anything else that I can help with, I'm around too. I see an anonymous question about QR codes. Is it too aggressive or presumptuous to link a QR code directly to a payment site for donations? I actually think it would be great to test putting a QR code directly to your donation site, just to really see what the results would be like. I would think it would do well, even on Community Boost side of things. With a lot of our Facebook ads, like we point people directly to the donation page. So I think it's likely to be successful. I wouldn't think it's too aggressive, but take a look at the donation page and also make sure it's optimized for conversion. And also that like you have some impact statements on there or just like verbiage on the page that like is encouraging people that their donation is, making a difference for, is making a difference. So I know, yeah, I took a question or two just because I wanted to
awesome.
see how much we can get to. And we'll wrap up in the next couple minutes here. I put your email. I just encouraged everyone to take a look at OneCause for all of their auctions, both online and in-person events. Yeah, I guess any other questions here? There's like a couple of questions about like how do you encourage giving in a time of recession? And so that's like a big question, right? I don't think that like we have the time to properly dive into it. If you want to give a quick tip, I would love to have that. But also, the Nonprofit Marketing Summit is actually having a whole panel discussion dedicated to this. And so I would really encourage everyone here, if you have not already, to register for the Nonprofit Marketing Summit. It's free to attend, and there's going to be a really comprehensive panel discussion on that topic. And we're joined by Charity Water and a few really great organizations about how they're navigating that. So, but yeah, Emily, any tips for anyone before we end our time today?
Just like overall, just about the, again, making it easy and sharing the impact, right? Because trust was that emerging motivator. And so trust.
Oh, all right. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to call it a day. Too many tech issues. So sorry for that experience for all of you here, but I really appreciate Emily's willingness to keep joining and keep answering questions. And thank you all for staying engaged and being so patient and understanding with us. Wish there was something we could do. I'll definitely be sending an email to welcome Zoom. Welcome is what we use for our summit. So, but yeah, I would also really invite you all to please send me an email as well. If you have any questions that you think I can help with. I have done a lot of virtual events and fundraising as well. So if I am happy to answer any questions on that front for you all. So I'm Candace at communityboost.org. I'm sure you get emails from me all the time, but that is actually my email address. You can reach me directly there. Thank you all for engaging. This was so great. And I'm just so thankful to Emily for being here today and just sharing all of this great content with us. I also will be sending out, as a reminder, the recording and the slides. If you want to download the OneCause study, you can go ahead and download the ebook right there, the 2022 Giving Experience Study. And that will also be included in the follow-up email tomorrow. So thank you all for being here. Really, really appreciate everything today and all of your patience and for great questions, great engagement. And I hope to see you all at the summit. So I'll wait here. I kind of want to say bye to Emily if she does try popping back on. So I'll be here for the next couple of minutes. Sim, I saw that you signed up for the summit, but never received a confirmation email. If you can just shoot me an email, that will be the best way for me to troubleshoot for you. Gabby asks, since many of our users live on Facebook, live on Facebook, is it best to do hybrid fundraising, some on Facebook and some on another platform? Absolutely. I think like the more you can diversify your channels, the best, the better. And so if you have a lot of supporters on a channel, targeting a specific event towards those, that group, that audience is going to go over really well. So having, a virtual or live stream option for your supporters on Facebook is ideal. What's also really great is if you do like a Facebook Live or post a video, you're actually able to retarget anyone who engages with advertising. So if anyone even watches a second of a video that you post on Facebook, you're actually able to, like, let's say leading into year end, run some ads to everyone who engaged so that hopefully you can convert them into donors later. Yeah, I can definitely post the link in the chat to sign up for the summit. So go ahead, and I'll also include that in the follow-up email tomorrow. So Gabby, hope that answers your question. Big fan of hybrid, big fan of hybrid. Summit next time is going to be hybrid, so keep an eye out for that. That's going to come up in February 2023. We'll have some really cool options for you all. Yeah. Well, I think that is all the time we have for today. Anyone that didn't get their question answered, you can follow up with Emily. I'll also put her email in the follow-up email so that you have it. And I'm pasting my email here again in case there's anything else that I can help with as well. So thanks all, and really appreciate you for sticking on with us. All right, take care. Have a good rest of your day.